Okay, 3. Already started now. I'm just saying 3, 2, 1. You pause for a second and then we start so Julian can cut it out. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, so what's your name?
My name is Khadija.
So today I would like to talk to you about your religion, and I've got a few questions I would really like to ask you. So firstly I would like to ask you, how religious would you rate yourself?
That's an interesting question. My belief in Allah and my belief in Islam is very, very strong. As a human being, my application of Islam, I'm always striving every day to try to get better. When I see myself, because it's not a good thing to compare oneself, I like to compare myself to the ideal. So for me, I'm just a normal Muslim striving to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do the best that I can, and try to correct myself, do always a little bit more, better my character, better my worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do I rate myself? I don't know, I'm doing my best.
So is there things you don't think you should do, or do you exactly go by the guidelines, or do you think there are things that maybe you don't look for that much, or you don't?
The beautiful things about Islam is that Islam is perfect. And we know that Islam is from Allah, who is our creator, and He knows best what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And therefore, I strive to, when one accepts Islam, he accepts everything. Can we do everything? Most likely not. But we strive toward the best that we can. And hopefully we pray that Allah excuses us and forgives us for our shortcomings, especially those that we do not do on purpose or willingly. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, so are you born as a Muslim, or did you convert?
No, I was born as a Catholic Christian, and I converted to Islam. I was 27 years old, and after I had actually friends with me from university from 8 years, but nobody had really explained to me what Islam was. And then I decided to go deeper in it, and realized actually that it was answering all the questions that I had throughout my life. For me, something like as simple as we are born, we are supposed to go to school to get a job, the best of that we can, to make money so we can have our house, our family, and a car. And so eventually we get married, and we also raise children. Then we go to school to get a job, to get a car, to get a house, get a family, and so on and so forth. And for me, that was incomplete. Always I ask myself the question, what's the purpose of life? Why are we all doing this, one generation after the next? What are we living for? What are we looking for? And of course, always the question, what is it after we die? And so, when I came across the correct information on Islam, I realized it was answering questions that I've had all my life. And that's one of them, why do we live? And it's a very simple answer. We live to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we work and we study, and of course we eat and we have some fun, and we live. That's consequential. But ultimately we are meant to go back to where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. And that was a really big piece of the puzzle. And in Christianity, there is a huge question that I think we all have in Christianity, or so many people have, is that every people say they're the chosen people. So Christians say they're the one going to paradise, and the Jewish say they're the one going to paradise, and The Hindus say they don't know paradise. I mean, everybody have their own version. And so if we say that Islam is the real religion, then what about this person that didn't hear about it living in the jungle in Brazil, for example? Okay, he gets to go to the hellfire because he didn't hear about it. Okay? Or what about the people that lived before Islam? Then what? So this question always comes, say that wouldn't be fair. So only Muslims go to paradise. Well, actually, the question is just the most fantastic thing that I had ever heard, and that just clicked on me that yes, Islam has to be the real religion. Is that when I learned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent 124,000 messengers throughout time and places since we exist, and that's a lot of people, to guide a lot of people. And Muhammad ﷺ is the last one. Well, that showed me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fair. And even those who, let's say, would be in the middle of the jungle, didn't hear about it, then when it comes to the Day of Judgment, Allah will send them on the Day of Judgment another a guide to tell them about Islam, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fair. And that was unheard of in any other religion that I had come across and I had studied. So for me, that was a huge answer. So there's, for me, it was gathering all the things that I was asking myself throughout my life. And it's also very beautiful because it's a guide, it gives you guidelines for everything. So the Muslim is not at loss for anything at all. It teaches you how to eat properly. It teaches you how to greet people, how to have manners with people, how to welcome your guests in your home. It even teaches us how to go to the toilet. So that, for example, we do things in the toilet with the left hand, and you always eat with the right hand. So should you live in a place and time where there's no soap, for example, you would never contaminate your food. So there's so much wisdom in it. So when I came across it, there's nothing comparable in any other place or in any other religion. And I said to myself, for me it was clear that that was it. That was the religion that actually carries the truth. And so, but then the beautiful thing is that it doesn't throw Christianity out the window. It doesn't throw Judaism out the window. It actually tells us that all the prophets that we knew, like Abraham, like Moses, and Jesus, peace be upon all of them, they were all prophets of Allah. And so, really going from Christianity to Islam is like going from Windows 7 to Windows 10. It's an upgrade. It's not a change. And that's what's fantastic about it. There's so many things that not so long ago, the Christians were doing. They were not listening to music. They were not eating pork. They were not mixing. There's so many things, and they were getting up at Fajr time, which is sunrise, and they had habits very closely linked to what we know, what we have the message today in Islam. They were using their right hand also for eating and doing all the clean things. So when one puts all of this together, for me there was no doubt. I had found finally the answers to all my questions. And again, another thing that's so important is that every other religion that I came across, the way I understood them, is we have to believe. Whether you understand or not, you have to believe. And I went 5 years in a nun school, in a boarding nun school, and we just had to believe. Whatever, the Trinity couldn't be understood, but we had to believe it. In Islam, of course we have to believe, but there's nothing that we can't understand, mostly, roughly. You have to understand in order to believe. That's the difference. There's this blind, on one side there's blind belief, and on Islam you cannot actually blindly believe. The order is to understand. So if you take your shahada, which is Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, I take witness, I be witness that Allah is the one God and that Muhammad is the last prophet messenger, then you have to understand what this means. If you don't understand, you didn't say anything. So it's not like in other places where you just have to believe. You actually are bound to the religion without, as a baby, for example, you're not even understanding what you're saying. And that's very important. And so the more you understand, the more you believe. The more you understand, the more your faith gets strong. And Allah, in so many places in the Quran, mentions the fact that those who understand and who learn and who have knowledge, they are actually the strongest in Islam. They are the ones who have the best life, because they are the one who applies Islam the best, which means they're following the guidelines that Allah has given us. Like, if we're not eating pork, that's because pork is not good for us. He says don't smoke, because smoke is harmful for you. If anything is good for you, Allah doesn't say it's forbidden. Everything that's good for us, Allah made it halal for us, meaning permissible. So it's not like it's restrictive. No, it's telling you, do the things correctly. You will have the happiest life in this world and in the next. What else can I ask for? So for me, so many questions were answered, and it just makes so much sense. And since I'm particularly a lover of knowledge. I have so many years of university. I just love learning, and for me that just was perfect. Allah is telling me you have to learn, and you have to know, and you have to understand, and that will bring you a better life. Then that will bring you a better understanding, and more faith, and more happiness, and then in this world and the next, inshallah ta'ala. Then what else can I ask for? Yeah.
You said like jumping from Windows 7 or 10 must have been, or loads of things you had to learn must have been really hard for you. So why did you choose to take that path, even though you knew it was a big jump?
It was a huge jump actually, and I used to say it was the most difficult thing I had ever done in my life, because it's a personal thing. If you go to university, you take medical college, you learn it's the most difficult college to take, but it's not just stays outside of you. Islam is like an inner change. You have to change your personal habit, you have to change your personal life, you have to change your heart, you have to work on yourself, you have to question yourself. Looking at yourself in the mirror honestly, I think it's probably the most difficult thing you can do. It is an upgrade in the sense that for someone who would have been applying Christianity to the best of their ability, then and the rules that are really there in Christianity, it would have been an upgrade. For me, it wasn't really an upgrade, because life as a lot of people in the West is very far from any religion. They say they're Christians, or they say they're Jews, or they say they're Hindus, but really they're not really living their religion. And I was just floating, looking for the truth, and so it wasn't really an upgrade for me, but it was what I was looking for. There are some things I was craving for, like a clean life without alcohol. Don't mind, because I didn't like drinking anyway. Pork, I didn't like it. I didn't feel good about it. Certain relationships, it didn't attract me, because it's empty. You know, there's a lot of relationships that we have in the West. It's just empty relationships. It doesn't mean anything. People can turn around the next day and leave you empty-handed. Nobody is actually forced to take responsibility toward anything. In Islam, even two friends together, they have responsibilities together. You know, we're taught how you can don't be too close and don't be too far apart. If you're too close, you end up clashing together. If you're too far, you will not give each other's rights. Okay, so all these things, I mean, I was looking for a guidance. I was looking for what you feel in your heart is just missing. And so for me, no, it wasn't a way, because I was not really practicing Christian, but It was what I was looking for. Now again, Allah doesn't put a burden on you that you cannot bear. So it's step by step. You start with one step. You start with understanding, you learn, and then the more you learn, you apply, and then you go to the next. And sometimes you have to take a step back. It was a bit overwhelming. And then you take the next breath, and then you go on to the next step. And every person has something difficult. For me, hijab was not difficult, because I didn't like wearing mini skirts or showing myself to the public as that's how I was. I didn't like it. Something that the hijab is something that attracted me right away. I just loved the feeling of covering. I just loved the feeling of not being for sale on the market. You know, just everybody can just look at me and then maybe whistle at me on the streets, or you know. For me, that was not something right, and so for me that was easy. Some other things were more difficult for me, like fasting, for example. But over time, I made it very easy. Now it's something that it brings so much health. It's just fantastic. I lost track of your question after that.
It's fine. It was really well answered. You went into a lot of detail about what made you want to convert at first. You wanted to try something new, and you wanted to find new guidelines, or you were wanting to change, but what actually made you want to convert?
That's an interesting question. Guidance came for me at a very particular time where I was kind of on the finishing edge of studying. I was getting older, 26, 27 years old. And I was starting to feel this life just, you know, you go to the bar on Friday night and then you study, or you work all week and then you go for coffee the next time. It was empty. Time was flying. 30 was going to knock on the door, and I hadn't anything meaningful. And when I mean anything meaningful, I started to feel family was something that's going to be really staying with me. We grow older, and then what was I going to be left with? Nothing. Except my work, if I was going to succeed doing something meaningful. Otherwise, life was going by, and I felt I was missing the family aspect of my life. So I wanted to get married. And then I met a couple who they were married, of course, and one was Canadian. They were both Canadian, but one was of Arab origin. She was, like me, just of normal Western background, and she was not wearing hijab, although she had been Muslim for a couple of years. But when I saw him, we were at a little Islamic kind of gathering, which was the second one I was going at that time. And she said, we'll drive you back. So we were waiting for her husband. And what struck me is when the husband came, their mannerism and their relationship, which was shown to me in the following manner. So basically, this is the scenario. He comes with the car. He has a car with a sliding, kind of a semi-truck, you know, with a sliding door on the side, minivan kind of thing. She opened the door for me, which was unusual. As Canadians, we open our own doors, especially between women. So she opened the door, sliding door for me, and I got in, and she closed it back, which was also unusual. So she was really with good manner. When I sat in my seat, I saw the husband on the driver's seat, and he had a beard, and he was dressed like my husband with a white thobe and a cap, and I was shy, so I didn't say anything to him. I was impressed, you know. And then she got in her seat, and he didn't say anything to me. She got in her seat. She put her seatbelt on, and then he turned to her and gave her the greeting, Assalamu alaikum. Then he just lifted his head a little bit sideways, and he said, hi. And I was just floored. I said to myself, wow, he greeted his wife first before he greeted a strange woman. That was, for me, the ultimate it was just showing the essence of their relationship and the respect he had for her, although she was clearly not at his level, if I could put it this way. She was not covering, and he had full Islamic wear. You could tell, he was, and we were sitting in Canada, so it's not like we're in a Muslim country. So obviously for him to dress like this, he must have been very strong in his practice, while she had a lot of things to improve, obviously. And yet he had this much respect for her, and that was really impressive to me. And I had actually just got married, and as soon as I got home, I said to my husband at the time, if I take Islam, are you going to treat me like that? This is how I want to be treated. This is what I want my life to be like. And of course he said yes. So I hung up the phone and I looked for my book to take my Shahada, my declaration of Islam. And between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I said, Allah, you hear me. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. And I repeated several times to make sure that I was going to be heard. And then I just proceeded and started to learn to pray. I had books. And eventually I told the people in the gathering that I had taken Islam. And of course, from that point on, they all came to help me and to give me information and to support me and to help to guide me. So that was, but so it came at that time where I guess I was opened because I had just got married and I saw this relationship that was obviously based on Islam, and I said, this is what I want. So yeah.
And you made the decision yourself, or did you go to your friend and talk to them, or
no,
go
actually,
to your parents? Or?
I took the decision all by myself. At that point, I had read enough on Islam, and I had some knowledge on Islam. I knew enough, and I knew about Allah sent 124,000 prophets. I had learned so many things. That was like the cherry on the sundae, and that just showed me the application of and the quality of this religion, and it just showed me, okay, this is it. This is it, and this is what I want.
So you made like the whole process, you went through it and everything. So how would you say what you found most important about the Islam before, and what you think is most important about Islam to you now?
Actually, what I think is most important about Islam is, as Dave was saying, with this basically knowledge. In the beginning, it's about learning the basics. It's about learning how to pray. It's about learning the do's and don'ts, what's permissible, what's not. It's kind of basic. It's about learning who is Allah, who is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the more you go ahead, it's about memorizing Quran. It's about understanding it. It's about deeper understanding, and if you stop doing that, which at some point got busy with, life just gets you busy, spins your head. I kind of slowed down a lot doing that, and then you go and you turn back a couple of years and you go, well, there's something missing. I just got busy with this life. Need to go back to it because you feel it has a direct impact on your faith, on your practice, your striving. But at some point you need to know more. You need to continue. Because anyway, in life, if you don't go ahead, you go backward. There's no such thing as staying put. And freezing yourself for some time, and if you stop, you go backward. You start sliding back. You can never stop striving ahead. So I started again to try to learn, but of course now I have more responsibilities and a different life, of course, than when I started, but a small step at a time, one page at a time, one paragraph at a time, if it has to be, but one has to strive to go ahead, and it's really important. And always I remember in the Quran, Allah says, He tells a lesson or an order, and He concludes by saying, for those who know, for those who remember, for those who understand. That always sticks to my mind, and it's so true. It's so true.
It's very interesting. But is there also something, without being rude here, is there something you might not find important in the Islam or in your religion?
That's the interesting thing, is that every single detail is a part of a whole. And so I can't say there's something not important. Obviously there are some things more important than others, like not committing certain sins which are considered the major sins, like insulting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by associating another being with him, for example. This will, this is obviously a great, not good thing to do. But when it comes to practicing Islam for every person, even the small things have an importance. Like make sure I use my right hand to eat and I guide my children to do that, or making a little prayer before this and a prayer before that. Before we eat we say Bismillah, before we enter the bathroom we say something to protect ourselves. All the small little things actually, they are the ones that actually become big. It's like comparable to a leaking pipe and you leave a glass. If you were to wait there, you say, this is going to take forever to fill up my glass. But you get busy over time, and then first thing you know, your glass is filling over. This is like your daily life. Those small things actually fill up to big things. And Allah promises us that all these small things actually, they pile up in our book. Everything is written, and they become big. And we also hope as Muslims that these small things and all these small rewards that we get will actually compensate for the mistakes that we make.
So you said like Islam is quite strict and there's a lot of knowledge and many guidelines and everything, but what do you think about Europeans saying like that Muslims are dangerous or many Muslims are terrorists and are mostly scared of them, even though your religion is really strict and most of the things that are said about Muslims are not true or half true? So what do you think about the Europeans or Western countries saying about your religion?
Well, what is said about the religion of Islam in the West is mostly taken from propagandas, from television, from news, from... I remember growing with that propaganda, and we used to say, I'm not racist, but I can't accept Arabs, or I'm not racist, but I hate Arabs. It's like, you could afford not being racist, but you could hate the Muslims. You could hate the Arabs at that time meant Muslim. It was the same, one and the same. It's what it was believed. It's all, you see how there's misinformation. There's a lot of Arabs that are not Muslims, and there are Muslims that are not Arabs. So it was complete misconception. So basically the belief that people have in the West is a lot of misconceptions, which I believe is slowly kind of breaking down with the media that we have, although some connections in the West, some friends have said that it's not reaching that many people as we think, but at least some people are realizing this is not, what they're actually seeing is not really Islam. And so when I say, I wouldn't qualify Islam as strict, because most of the word strict is actually kind of negative. Islam comes with guidelines to guide you to live cleanly, to live ethically, to have a good character. If you want to, if you're willing to kind of eat all of that all together, this is really nice. You do what you can, sincerely, and Allah knows what you can sincerely take. Now you go ahead, and then when people see you in action, they basically, I think, realize that Islam is not something dangerous. Actually, the real Muslim is the one who actually looks at himself and tries to always better himself, and he's not busy with left and right and this and that. Actually, is too busy trying to get himself well. And then the next thing is your parents, serving your parents, and then the next thing is your neighbor. Is your neighbor eating? Because if your neighbor is not eating, then you can't eat. You should be bringing food. How you eat and your actual neighbor is starving. So, and then it goes on, of course, your children, and my husband, in my case, I'm a woman, and for the husband would be to make sure his wife